What's up, YouTube? Well, I'm making a closet video for the simple reason that it is way too cold for me to sit in the living room, and that's an awesome thing. I love it cold. It can never be too cold for me. But what I'd like to talk about today, and I have some show and tell, which is a pillow that says dream bigger than the moon. And I just want to make a very simple video about the moon. And basically, the moon has always, it's fascinated me all my life. But here lately, it's fascinating me more, because ever since I took an interest in the sky, due to Mars being visible, it has caused me to notice the moon a little bit more than I used to notice it. Okay? But one thing that, I've just never really noticed about the moon until recently is the fact that it actually spends as much time in the daytime sky as it does in the night sky. Now, of course, you can't really see it, today, for the simple reason that it's so cloudy that, you can't really see anything but clouds. And, it's because of a cold front. But if there's one complaint I have about Texas, it would have to be the weather. Texas has this stereotype of being a very dry, desert-like state. But the reality is that unless you go west of San Antonio, it's a lot more like Louisiana than that part of the country. So I would love to live in Arizona. If for no other reason, the fact that you could actually see a clear sky. But one thing, like I say, about the moon that, I'm just beginning to really take note of is the fact that, the stereotypical moon that they like to put in movies, where it takes place at night, is your typical full moon. Which, and I didn't even know this, the full moon is the one that is basically the nighttime sun for all intents and purposes. It's a big circle in the sky, and it rises around sunset and sets around sunrise. Okay, but what I did not understand about the lunar cycle, I've been noticing that since I was about 7 years old. I can remember saying, "Mama, why is the moon out in the daytime?" But the reality is that you're more likely to see that when it's like a quarter moon or a crescent moon, because of the fact that the new moon, which is more the phase we're in right now, actually rises and sets with the sun, more or less. Okay, so as you get closer to the new moon, it actually spends less time out at night than it does in the day. But you see, the reason, I guess what I'm trying to say is that the moon is not as exclusive to the night as the sun is to the day. You see, the sun is basically the cause of the daylight. Okay, without the sun, you don't have daylight. Okay, well, the moon isn't like that. Okay, it's only thought of as the symbol for nighttime due to the fact that it is the brightest heavenly body in the night sky, for the simple reason that it orbits the earth. Okay? But, I've just really taken an interest in space and, just heavenly bodies in general, even more than I ever did, for the simple reason that I've been keeping my eye on Mars. Ever since I noticed it in the October sky, I've just been taking note of the planets and the moon and all that. And, I've just really begun to research these things, and there's a website that tells you the precise time of moonrise and moonset. Okay? And I've just really started to notice that, a daytime moon is really more of a normal thing. rather than something that is uncommon. You know, it's just a normal part of the lunar cycle. Okay? And, you know, it's just something that I wouldn't say it's intrigued me because I didn't really pay much attention to it. But I'd say, you know, I started, like, I really took note of this in elementary school. Okay? And I remember, you know, I used to say, you know, why does everybody draw just the sun in the daytime sky? And they always make it a full moon at night. And so I started drawing pictures where I'd have like a bright yellow sun on one side of the page, and then on the other, I would have like a little half moon that was white. Um, you know, and I just started drawing that because it just looked like, you know, something that, you know, was inaccurate, you know, for the simple reason that people want there to be a symbol for nighttime, you know, just as there is a symbol for daytime. Well, the two are not parallel. And I see it as very symbolic of gender. Like, I know that's kind of cliche, but I think of, you know, certain heavenly bodies as feminine and certain ones as masculine. Like Mars, you know, I always refer to him with male pronouns for the simple reason that the symbol for Mars is that for maleness and masculinity, you know, the circle with the arrow. And it's also made out of red clay or red dirt, and that's what Adam means in the Bible. He was made out of red clay, and guess what Mars is covered in? So I see Mars as a very masculine heavenly body. He's the god of war, and I see the sun as being masculine. And the moon and Venus I see as feminine. You know, the moon, well, because it has a 28-day cycle, and you know, it looks very clean, you know, from Earth because you can't see the imperfections. You just see this big white circle with craters on it. And Venus, of course, well, the symbol for Venus is that for female. So, you know, it's very symbolic to me of gender. You know, people will often say that one thing is masculine, but the other is feminine. But they're never parallel. You know, Pastor Anderson at Faith Ward Baptist in Arizona, which I wish I lived in Arizona, he likes to say that men and women are both necessary, you know, because just as you couldn't live without a washing machine, you also couldn't live without a dishwasher. Well, I beg to differ. Okay, first of all, you could live without one or both. You know, there was a time when neither one of them existed. Okay, people wash clothes by hand. They also wash dishes by hand. But I would say that a washing machine is a lot more important than a dishwasher because my mom does not have a dishwasher. She washes everything by hand. And while it's convenient to have a dishwasher, you could get by without one a lot more easily than you could without a washing machine. So, you know, people will often say, you know, like, you know, the sun is masculine and the moon is feminine. You know, the sun represents the day and the moon represents the night. Well, I disagree because you see, the sun is never out at night for a very obvious reason because the sun is the very cause of the daylight, okay? But the moon spends just as much time in the day sky as it does in the night sky, you know, over the 28-day cycle. So it's like saying that women can come into the male domain, whereas men are incapable of entering the female domain. So you see, they're not parallel. And they're not equal. You know, the sun is way bigger than the moon, you know, by an immeasurable amount of times. Millions or billions of times bigger. Well, it's bigger than the earth. Okay, so they're not equal or equivalent. And the moon spends just as much time, like I said, out in the daytime as it does at night. We just don't notice it for the simple reason that the sun outshines it. You know what I'm saying? It's still there in the sky somewhere, well, until it sets, of course, in the west, you know, but it's like, you know, when it, like, there's the first half of the lunar cycle, it's setting as the sun is rising, and then the second or later half, it's rising as the sun is setting. So in the morning, you can find it in the west, and in the evening, you can find it in the east. So it's always out for a small amount of time during the day, okay? But the full moon is the closest to only being out at night. The full moon in the winter time, of course, when the nights are at the longest they could possibly be. So anyway, I just wanted to talk about the moon and post this video. Just a simple talk about the moon in the daytime sky.